All right, well, thank you guys all for being here today. I always want to be intentional about thanking you for taking time out of your schedules. I know that the life of a real estate agent is crazy, and for you to take an hour out of your day to be here, that is not lost on us. I also wanted to thank Scott and Danielle for being here as well. Thank you for taking the time to pour into some agents that are here to learn about the shifting market and what's working, what's not working, the things that we're seeing, and to hear from two brilliant agents that I respect deeply. So thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. So the purpose of this training, obviously, we're, unless you've been under a rock the last 8 months, we're in a shifting market, right? Like inventory's coming back, homes are sitting on the market longer. We're seeing more price reductions. I don't want to get into the, spoiler alerts or anything, but the purpose. So, this is all for you. Oh, do you want that? This is like some interesting data I pulled from Perplexity this morning. Yeah, so
I've got a synopsis.
Don't worry. You can sit on it. You can sit on it. You can use it for a coaster or whatever. But I wanted you to have it. So yeah, that's why we're here. To I think that iron sharpens iron, and when you put a bunch of great agents in a room with other great agents, some really cool things happen. So that's the purpose of today's get together. Sound good? So let's jump in. So some kickoff questions that I have for you, and in our normal panel fashion, you can both answer all the questions. If you hate a question, you can skip it. There's no rhyme or reason. Just go with how you feel comfortable. So
all right.
So question number one I've got today is, what's the biggest challenge you're facing in your business when it comes to getting a listing sold right now?
Probably how picky buyers kind of are. I feel like in the past month and a half to 2 months, it's been like a complete shift. I have a listing on the market right now on Milburn. We listed it a month and a half ago, abruptly took it off before anyone saw it because it was a crazy rain day and a little bit of water came in the basement. My seller's like, absolutely not, take it off. Like, okay. And then he took 4 weeks to fix it because he was depressed that water got in the basement. So then we put it on, and now all of a sudden there's a shift. And we had like 10 showings scheduled when we put it up the first time, and we had, I think, 2 the first weekend. And he's like, what's going on? I'm like, I made it. I'm like, I'm sorry. So it's still on. We just did a price reduction. So someone sell it, please. It's West Park. Okay. What was the reduction? 10,000. 269.
So I actually wrote down all my answers. So actually I think the biggest challenge for me is remaining patient with the sellers. I think that we're kind of jumping the shark here when it comes to this question, meaning we're getting later in this question session here that what are we doing to avoid having any issues with our sellers?
Yeah.
And I think we'll talk about that more, and about setting yourself up for success with doing everything possible to do that. But the reality is, for me, is that then once you've done that hard work, and if you've got someone who's just not being practical, they're not looking at the data that you have shared with them. It's just being patient and continuing to communicate with them, to them, what's actually happening. So you have to be, when we got started, you could put a house in the market and it was bam, gone, right? There wasn't a whole lot of work involved. And now that's not the case. You've got a lot. I think everybody here can attest to hearing a seller say, well, I can get this much money for the house. I know I can. I put $50,000 into it. I know I have to get this much money, blah, blah, blah. The market is the market. And the only way we can show them that is with the data. So I always start out with the data, show them the comps. Now, my challenge for me is explaining that here's where you're starting, and if you start out here, and I'm going to get into this a little more later, but if you start out where you want to start out, then you're just going to help everybody else sell their house. Mm-hmm. And so I'm always start out making sure they understand all of that, and then you just got to sit back and be patient, and then deliver the message, re-deliver the message on a weekly basis. How are you doing? Hey, by the way, we had no showings, or we had 2 showings. The market is continuing to say no to your price. My recommendation at this time is, and that's it. Like they've got to come to that conclusion on their own. And to continually hit them with that, eventually, your patience will either win out or you'll step aside from that listing.
I like that. I like the weekly cadence too. Do you have any kind of cadence where you follow up with your?
I always ask them like what they prefer communication wise in our listing appointment, and then I kind of go from that. But I do, depending on the client, like if it's a really important client, I tend to, especially in the beginning, every day, I give them an update. And if it doesn't sell, then we kind of switch. We talk about switching it to like every couple of days to every week. I try not to have it on the market for weeks, so I try not to do it weekly. But right now, obviously, things are different. So
Love it. Thank you. I like to ask follow-up questions. So,
love it.
yeah. Have you had a listing? We already kind of mentioned this with Danielle, but have you had a listing recently that expired or set longer than you expected? What did you think contributed to
I mean,
that?
what's it saying? It's not time in the market. It's about timing the market. That way.
Other way around.
Wait.
Yeah.
It's about timing.
Yeah.
Wait, it's
Yeah.
timing the market, not time in the market.
It's about not time.
Not time.
Not timing the market. So that doesn't go with this.
Yeah. No, it doesn't.
No, okay, never
It
mind.
doesn't. Sorry.
No.
I think I'm gonna just.
I want 2 hours.
I want to jump in this. I want to jump in on this. Because I think this is really apropos. We all know there are only 3 things that will sell a house, right? Location, condition, and price. And I tell my clients, did you hear? If they tell me those things, typically they can tell me these things. I'll ask them and they'll tell me these things and I'll say, thank you. Did you notice that one of them was me? I don't sell your house. It's the market. The market will respond to your location, your condition, and your price.
It all boils down though to price.
And at the end of the day, if the condition isn't there, the price is the issue. If the location isn't there, the price is the issue. So that's why we do comps. We do comps based on what's in the neighborhood, kind of looks like, sort of like what that house looks like in condition and in room sizes and all that kind of stuff. And then it's price.
And it's difficult because when you're looking at comps, that's the past. And right now we're in a shift, so it's not the same as it was 6 months ago. So that's something that you always have to educate the seller too, is like, this is a weird market. It's like, we haven't seen this. Set the expectation. Like, I don't know. I guess we'll figure it out when we get on the market, but we have to price adjust it if needed.
So I do set that expectation. If they're overpriced, I tell them that they're overpriced. I tell them why I believe they're overpriced. And I promise them that I'm going to come back and talk with them about this in a week's time. We're going to let the listing go for a couple of weekends. And if we don't have offers, we will be talking about this price. And I set the expectation up front. This is where I believe the pricing is today. So getting to your point, what I also do is I price to the latest price reduction. So when I'm looking at the market, I see the latest that came on the market, I see the price reductions, and I give them the comps that include those price reductions. And then I show them, this is where, if you want to be competitive in this market, that's your choice. This is where I would begin.
Yeah, I think data is so helpful in situations like that. Scott asked me to pull some data off the MLS this morning, and I was surprised, but I guess I shouldn't be surprised that there were more price reductions this week in the last 7 days than there were new listings on the market.
Exactly.
So 50 in Cuyahoga County, 54, I think, listings hit the market. 56 price reductions happened this week.
Yeah.
In the last 7 days.
Yeah.
So
If you have a very inspired, smart, practical seller, you're looking at those price reductions and saying, let's beat those.
good stuff. Thank you. What trends are you noticing in buyer behaviors right now that are affecting your listings? Kind of answered that already.
The choosy.
You said they're getting pickier.
They
Right?
are, they're more money conscious because
They have to
money, yeah, and with what's going on right now. A lot of them I don't think have that need to move like instantly, so they don't feel that pressure, and so we're seeing that by listing sitting.
In fact, I grade my buyers accordingly. So I'm looking at the buyer that, and I work with a lot of buyers too. So I'm looking at them as, is this someone actively shopping? They're ready to do something. I'm making sure that they're pre-approved. We're talking about their pre-approval. We're talking about not just what they want to buy, but what their actual payment's going to be. So based on that house, I'm putting them in touch with the lender to make sure that the lender is giving them the very best guidance on that particular property, so that they are prepared to actually pull the trigger and do something. The people in my, I call them they're actually shopping, but they're hot, but they're not pre-approved. And I making sure that we're dripping on them, and we're continually sending them listings, but we're also not spending a lot of time hand-holding them. We're doing that on a weekly basis where we're connecting with them.
Do you
So-
use a CRM?
Yeah, I have it all built into the CRM. So we have an A, B, and C grading system plus active. And active means I have a contract. We have an agreement that we're working together. Okay. Otherwise, they're in the A, B's, and C's, which is in my case, A is shopping, B is planner, and C is dreamer. And I'm using those as a way to grade my database so that I'm not wasting time on things that I shouldn't waste my time on.
I like those labels. I feel like it's very on brand. Scott Carpenter. I like that. Okay, let's pivot a little bit to pricing strategy. How are you approaching pricing with your sellers in today's shifting market?
I'm trying to be more aggressive. I have a listing coming up today and had a conversation with my seller last week. After seeing, he's like, so what do you think? Of course, he wants to hear a really high number. I told him, I'm like, I really think that we should not go above 500. We should hit that 499 mark. And he's like, well, I really want higher than that. I go, exactly. I'm like, that's like the only way we have a chance. Otherwise, we're chasing the market, and we want the market to chase us. And he was all for it. And his lender was there, one of my investors, his lender was there, and he was like, I love that. He's like, that's exactly what you should be doing this market. And so it kind of solidified what I was telling him, because this is my first time ever doing a sale, like a listing with this investor.
Oh,
So, prove myself.
Nice.
So in my case, I think I sort of outlined it earlier about, pricing to the latest price reduction. The conversation that I described earlier about, are you interested in, helping the other people sell their home, or do you want to sell yours? That's kind of and I'm paraphrasing that script. It depends on the person I'm speaking with. Because some people I would be very blunt with. You'll notice too, in the way I speak with you guys, I actually use the downswing, and I will use that downswing to really make a point with my clients. So in this case, you just described a listing. I have a listing coming as well where they're overpriced. There's no question. And we're having this conversation that I just described to you. We'll see if they take my advice. If they don't, I'm going to, as I said, promise to them that I will be following up in a week's time to give them my latest, on my latest take on the market and what the market is saying about the property. And I'm anticipating that we will have a price reduction. Here's where I'm at today. When we meet next time, I'll bring new data and we can discuss that. I have one in the market where I have a reticent seller. They were way overpriced. I'm the second realtor on this thing. I like being the second realtor because that means the first realtor did a lot of that hard work in the pricing. and yet she's still very, very overpriced. And it's just, some people you can lead a horse to water, and some you can't, and you just have to, do your best and forget the rest.
To your point, though, that always goes back to the data and to setting the expectations. A big thing I always do before listing, if you guys aren't aware, Showing Time has a reports section, and you can go and you can look up how many showings were in specific price ranges in like the cities that you're looking in. So like that's what I did before picking the price on this one too. There were 24 showings in the price range that we're listing in the area. So I was like, there's potentially 23 to 24 buyers out there.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it could be less, it could be more, but at least that tells me there's someone out there, and so we're not overreaching. And then we'll just dictate what happens once we get to the market and we get feedback.
I do the same thing.
I think another thing too that helps solidify that conversation is if I have a listing that's sitting on the market for a few weeks, I like to pull listings that have come on the market and sold
Mhm.
during your client's listing period, and then ask the seller questions.
Oh, yeah.
So,
What do you think?
so
about
these
being
three
like-
houses that are similarly priced came on the market after yours and sold, went under contract before yours did. Why do you think that is? And then they look up the listings and
Well, it gives
kind of
them the opportunity,
self-teach
yeah.
themselves. that,
Yeah,
oh,
and I do the same thing with my comps going in. So,
Mhm.
you know, especially now because they're so extreme. We have, you know, houses that sell in 3 days and houses that sit on the market for 60 days. So if we've got a lot of these days on market ones, I'm telling them, guess where the buyers are going? Because guess where my buyers are going? I'm telling them, go to those houses that have days on market. If you're looking for a deal, let's go there. Okay. And they're going, oh, does that mean, you know, they're starting to, you know, the wheels are turning. So if you get what I'm saying here, and if you look at those 3 days on market, and those 6 days on market, what does that tell you? And they're like, well, I don't know. Well, look at the prices. And they're going, you know, and this suddenly the light bulbs go off. So
Yeah.
to your point, just ask the right questions. They're leading questions, but they're the same questions that we ask in our own minds when we're, you know, when we are looking at all this data.
I always, not always, but a lot of the time I'll bring the 3 most comparable properties, even if they're in like different kind of price ranges. And I hand it to them and I say, look at the photos. Where do you think your home compares to these that have sold? And then that also gives them that visual, like, hey, maybe my house isn't actually that nice. Maybe I should be listening to her and things like that. So it
Maybe my
helps.
house isn't as updated as I
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah. The new kitchen 10 years ago.
Let's see, where were we? What tools or scripts do you use? I should stop and pause there and just say too that if you guys have any questions while they're answering these questions, like we want to keep this conversational too. So if you've got a burning question, just like raise your hand or shout it out. Like we're cool being interrupted. So cool.
I didn't answer yes.
And too bad. I'm the facilitator here, Scott. What tools or scripts do you use that help sellers understand and accept realistic pricing?
I've already gone over that. Comps, trend graphics, showing time.
Well,
Yeah.
you don't have any offers in front of you, do you?
Yeah.
I mean, that's literally the market saying no.
One of my favorite lines is to say, basically say that you're the highest bidder on your house right now. How do you feel about that?
Oh, that's great. That's a great line.
It-
I love it.
It twists them a lot. So they're like, oh.
How do you feel
Would you
about
buy
that?
Would you buy your house at that price?
Yeah.
right now? These 300.
Buy your house at this price.
Yeah, would you
Yeah,
buy,
exactly.
would you buy your house? at this
Well,
price?
that's
These
actually-
3 other houses.
Yeah, that's actually a question that I sometimes ask when we're sitting down and doing the listing. Okay. Because that's actually the most important question for them is to understand that they wouldn't, if they know the answer is no, then that's all you have to do.
All right. Have you had to reduce price recently? How did you frame specifically the conversation with your client?
I actually did twice the past month. I never reduced my price. So this week, the $10,000. Not to toot my own horn, but the most recent one was the Milburn one. And when he already knew, and he's like, well, what are you thinking with price? And I'm like, I sent the one fee with the hands on for my eyes, and I said $10,000. And he goes, yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I'm like, all right, that was easy. But you have to be upfront with them. And then I have a listing out in Vermillion. It was overpriced. We knew it was going to be overpriced when we put it up. It was $4.5 million. And I just bluntly one day when I was with Mike, I go, so what do you think about a $500,000 reduction? Like jokingly. And he goes, all right. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's do it. So
That's
it
awesome.
was super easy.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, if they trust you, they trust your opinion, you kind of, by asking questions, you kind of know their bottom line in a sense, but you also want to tiptoe to that bottom line in a sense. So,
Yeah.
but if you know that they're kind of fed up, it's just about communication with your client.
Yeah.
Really, 'cause that's being able to read your clients.
Yeah.
I think, sorry.
Go ahead,
But
please.
I was gonna say, I don't think I asked enough. Like, I think agents are almost afraid to ask for something,
Yeah.
to where, especially at like the higher price ones or something like that, I mean, it's easier than you think. Because
Oh,
here's
yeah.
what I suggest, you should do this.
They hired you for a reason.
Yeah.
Especially like people who are that, like they have money, they're smart, they're hiring you because they trust you and your opinion and everything's, but you can't give them your opinion unless you're asking those questions because it's really about their why. At the end of the day, it's not about yours.
They didn't have a nice fire that was at like 570. And I was like, okay, then we lost our at 539. It's like, okay. It's like, why wouldn't the last eight?
Yeah.
It was like, but, you know.
Some people are afraid to ask because they don't want to get fired.
For sure.
What's the worst that can happen? You get fired and you don't sell and you're already not selling it?
Right, right, exactly.
Do you find it helpful to set expectations early on? Oh, with what, with like the time, like specifically the timing or the percentage or dollar amount? What's that look like? Is there a percentage that you like to reduce the first time, or is it just based on the comps?
How feedback comes, I just say we need to have a discussion if we haven't sold in 2 weeks.
Mhm.
At the end of that 2-week weekend, we have to really talk about
Make a
this and,
decision,
you know,
yeah.
Yeah, I think if, I mean, obviously, if you priced it right, it's going to, so, you know, if you have the conversation up front and you set that expectation, then, and they choose not to price it that way, then you've told them already what you think about the price, and you're
that's a
just,
comment.
yeah, and there's no surprise. It's where I thought we would be, but you don't put it that way.
It's kind of like, I told you so. kind of thing.
Yeah, and actually, I've been saying, it's my mantra here today is it's the market saying no to your price. It's not me. Like I said, I don't sell your house. The market does. The market is determining the price. The market is the market.
House is only worth what someone's money.
Exactly.
And then let's pivot to positioning and marketing. In your opinion, what makes a listing stand out right now? Are you leaning more into staging, visuals, unique descriptions, or something else?
I'm doing what I've always done. Like I went to school for fine arts, so I really put a focus on my marketing. So I want to make sure my photos are perfect. I want to make sure they're staged. Like I don't go stage the home, like with my own furniture, but I do go and I part of my niche is that I go and I do a staging consult where I create like a full packet and tell them what they need to do room by room to make it picture worthy and show worthy. Like I always tell them, this is something you guys can use. I say, you have to think of it this way. There's the 70-30 rule where when you're living there, there's some, you know, because you did the staging class, 70% of it is your stuff in a house when you're living there. You want to flip it to be 30% your stuff, 70% space when you're selling, because people, they don't want to see all your stuff. They want to see the home. And every time I see a listing, like the photos, and I see, like my eye just draws to all their crap. And I'm like, you're not looking at the house, you're looking at their stuff, and you're selling the house, not their stuff. You
Yes,
really
yeah.
have to focus on that.
Yeah. And they can't. Yeah, and the buyer can't imagine.
Exactly.
The buyer can't use their imagination. Then.
Yeah.
They're
Why
too
do you have
wrapped up in
Pokemon
that.
dolls on top of the kitchen cabinets?
Whoa.
That just happened recently. Like, how do you as an agent not tell them, like, we gotta take those down? Like,
Wow, I go to
Because
all
I'm gonna
that,
catch 'em
I
all.
go to so much less trouble. I just walk through the house and tell them exactly what they need to do. And I don't equivocate. I just tell them, here's what I want you to do to sell the house, to put it in the best light. Honestly, though, the reality is that everybody that we do business with is different. So we're saying kind of have to handle some people differently than other people. My approach is consultative and authoritative, so that they understand I want to help them achieve their goal, and I'm prepared to do that, assuming that we are moving forward in the appropriate way here. I don't put it that way, but they get that from me.
The confidence, people,
Yeah.
they trust confidence.
Yeah.
So you have to go, like, but if you have to go in there knowing your stuff in order for them to think you're confident, because if you're just like splurting off things and mumbling and like, they're just like, okay, you have no idea what you're talking about, why would I listen to you?
Yeah.
So it's really just being prepared.
So for Chris, he's got what makes a listing stand out right now? How are you adjusting your marketing strategies, and are there creative ways you could reposition a listing? Every one of those I answer with one word: price. I mean, everything comes down to, right now, especially, you said it's shifting market. Price is so important to our buyers right now because they can't afford, to go up another $30,000 on a house. They can't do it with these interest rates. They can't do it with their income. So price.
The more people through the door, the more likely you're gonna get a higher price, because now there's that feel of competition.
And
so
it's
there's a
numbers.
big price.
It's like lead gen. It's numbers. The more you get, the more people that come in the door, the more likely it is that you're going to get the price that makes sense in the market.
That's what I did. I had a house in Litchfield and they wanted to price it like 610. I got them to do 589, 900. I said, the more people through the door, the higher price we're gonna get. Like I promise you on this, I'm pretty confident we'll get 600 at least. They listened to me and we ended up getting 622 and,
Yeah.
and 7 offers. It was like, and literally there's agents telling me like, you price it so perfect. My clients want it so bad because there were so many people at your open house.
Exactly.
Like, it's just,
Love that. Be excited. Thank you. Let's see, are there any creative ways you've positioned a listing to attract new interest?
Production.
Besides price, yeah,
Yeah.
like price, right?
I mean, I've remarketed before too. I've had where they were living there and they had all their stuff in there and they moved out and we hadn't sold them. So I said, let's do another round of photos and take it with it empty
Mhm.
and see if that helps. And I included it with a price reduction. So kind of had that whole new like marketing sense. And it worked. We ended up selling that weekend. So
Yeah. Again, it's price. I
Yeah.
think, realize whether it's a messy house or a perfect house, it's just gonna come down to how does it meet the market?
Yeah. All right, what negotiation tactics have helped you bring deals together in this market?
you go first. How to bring you- I mean, just,
Is that our first question that everyone needs?
I didn't read any of these, so I don't know.
I don't hate this question.
You hate this question?
No.
I was a good negotiator. I don't know. I don't know what tactics. I mean, I think the win-win is the best way to go about everything.
She stole it.
Sorry.
Well, you're reading. You're reading.
I can't see that far. But I always go back to that. That's one of my favorite things on there. Just because you want to make sure both sides are happy and both sides feel like they're winning, or else someone's going to be disgruntled or mad in every sense. And so you really just have to guide your client to like say like, this, I think this is the best way, and talk to the agent, like really collaborate with the agent. Like you guys are working together, not against each other.
She really, oh, okay, she took it up. Yeah, so once we
Ditto.
are, ditto. Once we are having a conversation, it may not even be signed yet. But if we're in conversation with an agent, I'm really want to make sure that we create some sort of rapport. So that we can work together, as she described, to bring this to close. And at that point, I'm really looking for, the buyer's agent is always looking for what they can do for the seller in these last few years, right? I'm looking for what can we do with the buyer here to make this go smoothly, okay? I'm asking, hey, why don't you put me in touch with the lender, for example, because on my buyer's side, I'm saying, I'm gonna have my lender call you, okay? So, I'm gonna do basically, I kind of reverse reverse my tactics and apply them to me as if I'm telling that buyer's agent, here's what you should do. But in reality, I'm just looking for ways to connect with them and to get more information from them so that I can be in the very best possible position negotiating down the road. I remember you said to me that you needed to do this, this, and this. Let's find a way to make that happen so that both of our clients can win the situation. So I'm really inquiring like the buyer's agent when they call you on the phone and ask you all these, questions about when your client has to move and all that stuff. I'm doing the reverse on the buyer's agent, trying to find out as much as I can to be helpful in this process. The other thing is I'm looking for the rapport. Now, if there's pushback, if there's no rapport, and I've got 2 other offers that are coming in, I'm going to tell my clients, let's just sit and wait. We got a couple of other offers coming in. I'm not telling them that there might be a problem with this offer. I'm just, guiding them through this process. And then these other offers are coming in. They know that they've got this one at whatever price. And they're typically, as long as they're coming in right away or they're in and we can discuss them, then there's more we can talk about. But I'm trying to figure that out in that first conversation with these agents.
I think one, like to just add on to that, People always ask me why I love real estate, and obviously I love helping people and things like that, but I think it's that every day is different and it's always about problem solving. And that's my favorite part about this is because when a problem arises for negotiations and things like that, I don't go to my seller right away. I go behind the scenes and I'm gonna find 2 to 3 options, like really solid options before I go talk to them. Now I'm giving them, like I've already done the hard work. I'm not stressing them out because I'm presenting them, this is what we can do to negotiate with them. What do you think about that? And then,
Exactly.
and I also collaborate with the agent behind the scenes too, before presenting to my client, that I know kind of where they might stand if we go this route. And then that way it just makes the conversation that much easier and we can get right through it. And I feel like always when you're surprising your clients is when you have the most difficult conversations with them.
Absolutely.
Have you encountered, this is not on, this is off page, sorry. Scott. Have you encountered a situation or have you encountered any situations or deals where you found the buyer's agent particularly challenging to negotiate with?
Absolutely.
And what, give us a
Vice versa.
short version of what the situation was and how you were able to overcome that.
And it
This is
can't be,
more of a
but it
selfish
can't be
question.
someone, it can't be someone in-house though, right?
Yeah, when was the last time you dealt with a Smythe Kramer agent? And no, just kidding.
I think off the top of my head, maybe I'll come back to you.
Okay, I have a great story. So I had a listing, not a very expensive listing, really nice little house. This couple was selling and they were buying another house, and this agent brought in a buyer, and the agent, turns out the agent is older than me. Sounds like she's probably my brother's age, and someone who's in their like late 60s, early 70s, and she doesn't know how to use anything electronic, nothing. And I almost wrote the offer. It was almost that bad. And I ended up doing all of the paperwork. It got to a point where I'd say to her, okay, so do you want me to send this to your client to sign?
I've done that before. I asked for the email and I just sent it.
I had never encountered that before, and I was in a panic. I was like, should I do this? Should I call Ginter? Can I do this? Am I allowed? Anyway, I mean, it was, but then it turned into a mess. And I mean, it just got worse and worse where I was doing all the legwork, and it came down to negotiating the inspection, and how did it work out? Well, anyway, it worked out that me and my sellers were going to pitch in something, and the other agent agreed that she would pitch in something. So we all agreed, let's just get this closed, right? We're going to pitch in something, and then of course it's not in writing yet. And when it comes to being in writing, she's like, "Oh, I'm not doing that." And I'm like, and I'm doing all this work for you. I mean, I almost jumped through the phone at that point. So yeah,
I would have just sent it over and over and over again.
and she doesn't even receive it.
Oh.
She doesn't know how to open it. She can't open anything. I mean, it was, and to make matters worse, she's not even in town. She's out of town. And to make matters even more worse, her husband and her are friends with my older sister. And I finally said, "Do you know?" And she goes, "Oh yeah." And then we made small talk about that, but it didn't help me.
It just sounds like, coming back to the system of beliefs, just communication and continuing to find win-win situations.
Win-win. That's the key. You have to find the win-win, but you also have to kind of direct traffic. I think to the extent that you can be that person in the deal, the better.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't wait. Like I said, I try to find out as much as possible so that they start looking at me as, you're the guy who can help us get this done. And that's all I care about, because then I'm in the driver's seat.
I think relationships are so important in this business. Like as a listing agent and as a buying agent, I had the 7 offer situation, and there were 2 agents that I knew, and I knew that they do a really good job, and that really holds weight. as a listing agent, because you know that you're gonna, like, your job is to get to the closing table for your client and get them the best deal and know that it's gonna be smooth and less stressful and things like that. And we ended up going with someone I did 2 other deals with this year. Cause I told them, I'm like, he's solid. He has the best offer. Like, they were really comparable, 2 of them. And I was like, I just know that he's gonna get to the closing table.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. And she's like, we trust you, so we'll go that way. And we got to the closing table really quick. So I don't know. It's really important to have those relationships with other agents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing for how such a big industry this is, how small. the
It
industry
is, yeah.
Well, what is it? 20% of us are actually selling 80% of the houses.
Yeah,
So,
love that. Thank you. So you had mentioned, inspection, like working through inspection issues. How are you handling inspection and appraisal issues that threaten your closings in this market?
Should I bring up, so I have one right now, under contract, and I was able to get a backup offer, because just because I get an offer doesn't mean I'm gonna keep working, not gonna keep working for my client. So I got a backup offer that was $100 grand higher than the other offer. Yeah, and technically it was like 52 grand more because he asked for a bunch of commission. She wouldn't pay the other agent's commission. That's a whole other story. But I just used that to my advantage. The agent asked for $25,000 off of the price and gave me just like a bunch of bullcrap reasonings why. And what happens is that opens up a can of worms now, and it had the seller upset. So she spent a week and a half doing due diligence. The buyer's like, "You're taking so long." I go, "It's your fault." Like, and I kept saying like I'm treading lightly for a reason. Just trust me, I'm treading lightly. And she wouldn't like listen to me, and she kept pushing. And finally I asked the seller, I'm like, I just tell her that we have a backup offer and that we're just not giving anything. And she'd be like, if that's okay. And I did. And what do you know, like within 2 hours, she actually wrote a clean ROC after a week and a half of negotiating. Yeah, so I'm like, I have a way better offer than yours. So like, if you really want this to happen, go make it happen. So,
yeah.
Love that.
but
Note to self, get a backup offer. Yeah.
always work for your clients, always get a backup offer if you can, because it really helps you with your leverage.
That's a great piece. So, in my case, I mean, I do similar things. I also, upfront, if the house is presenting obvious issues, I'm gonna review that with them, make sure, first of all, that they disclose everything. So that may be reduced as a negotiating point when we get to that point. That said, we also kind of go over, what some of the costs might be to that and what to anticipate, what could happen. So I kind of spell it out, like to anticipate, we're probably going to get some pushback on some of these things. And are you prepared to negotiate? What does that look like? And here's what we're going to go through that early on, or right in the beginning, when we're filling out that disclosure, for example.
Oh, that's super smart. Cause I did the same thing with one of my listings. I said, this is a 70s split level. I can guarantee you there's mold in the attic. There always is. So she knew that. I'm like, this is a Federal Pacific panel. I can guarantee you we're gonna push back about that. Those were the 2 items that came up in the section report. And she was already prepared. So she was like, all right, that's fine. I'll have them fixed.
Yeah.
So it is, again, setting expectations, knowing your craft, knowing about houses. Like,
Love that. All right, where were we? What are some red flags that you look for in buyers' offers right now?
lender. Always.
Explain. Tell me more.
I
I feel like there's a story behind that.
mean, there's always a
Yeah.
story behind lender. Just who the lender is, who the company is. If it's a big bank, I typically have a lot of worries because that's all I ever have is bad experiences with them. Different VA banks, I've had a lot of bad experiences, and what I do is I always call the lender and I really grill them and I see how they respond, and if they did their due diligence on the buyer, like did they pull their credit, did they ask for bank statements, did they ask for taxes, like did they actually look at this before actually approving them? And then I go a step further because I'm annoying. I always ask who their appraisal management company is, because I know of certain ones that suck and I know of certain ones that are great, and that's also a big thing. And I have literally pushed one to use an AMC that I liked because they used a bad one, and they're like, okay, we will. And so we ended up accepting that. So I've also had people switch lenders before people accept their offer, and they want the house.
What's that conversation look like
With the seller or with
with the buyer's agent?
I exactly what I said to you. I go, I don't have a good experience with them. Like, what are your thoughts? And they're like, I really haven't either, or whatever they say, or if they really want the deal, they're gonna coach their client to talk to a better lender.
Yeah.
And they always typically have, I'd say 9 times out of 10, they say, no, I actually was trying to push them to use my lender, but they chose to go someone else.
Mhm.
This is giving me that fuel to
Backup.
to be able to go have them do that, and they always do.
Yeah. Well, I would agree with everything that Danielle said about lender. I think that's a big factor. The other is, you know, if they're, you don't see this, we're starting to see more of this, which is, it goes hand in hand with the choosy buyer, which is more inspections. I even have my buyers saying, I want this, and this inspection. And of course, I'm letting them know upfront what that might do to an offer if we are in multiples. And then, of course, the lender piece as a buyer's agent is also super important. So, as I said earlier, in my case, on the buying side, I have my lender call, and I also on the buyer's side, I'm actually getting my people pre-underwritten. I tell them, you do all that paperwork that Danielle was just talking about, make sure that it's verified, have it sent to their underwriter so that we can get that letter back instead of just, yeah, they check some boxes on a website, you know, and they got, you know, approved for $500,000 when nobody's even talked to them about what the payment looks like.
You'd be shocked how many lenders do that.
They're all doing it. They're all doing it. And that's part of the problem. So I actually will ask them, is your client pre-underwritten? And they'll, most of the time they're like, what does that mean?
What's that mean? Yeah.
And then I tell them, well, this is what I do for my buyers. And then they're like, oh, that's really a great idea. And I'm like, well, that's kind of why I'm asking, because I think it's important for your buyer to be that well ready to purchase this
Yeah.
house. And I think it's a strong, obviously it makes it a lot easier on the selling side, because then you know that you've got somebody who's going to be able to close. This is
Yeah.
not about them now. It's about the listing. It's about getting through the appraisal, getting through the inspection. That's it. So I'm coaching as well on as a selling agent, letting them know that, hey, where are you guys at? I also like the idea of, you know, really, as we said earlier, getting to know the other agent if you don't already know them, and creating a rapport with them.
I think everyone should write down, if you don't already have questions you ask lenders. I really think you should write these down. Then you can add on if you have any, but asking if they've collected taxes, credit, score, or actually ran the credit
Ran,
score, and pay stubs if they have those. If they are self-employed, you really want to know that, because that could take a lot longer with the lender. I always ask if they ran their payments for this specific house and the out-of-pocket expenses to make sure that they actually know what their payment's going to be. That's really important. And a lot of lenders I've learned don't do that. Debt, yeah, ran the debt to income.
Well, I think the other one is because a lot of
I have
people
it written
love the
down.
house, they love the house, but they don't know what the taxes are. And the taxes are going to have a huge impact on their ability, could have a huge impact on their ability to be approved.
So did you run
have
the payment
did you
with
run the
taxes
payment
and
with the
insurance?
tax? Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I feel like there was just some conversation in the ALC group chat about like something where like the taxes ended up, like the lender run the taxes wrong
Oh, yeah.
and it bumped them out of contract.
Right.
Because they no longer could afford the house because of taxes.
Another
Was that
one.
you actually?
No, that's not.
Brooke? Oh, yeah, Brooke. Yeah.
Another one that's starting to pop up are student loans. Student loans are going to start killing, because now, of course, they're no longer deferred. So,
A lot of people don't know that.
And-
I have somebody that
Yeah,
literally got approved because of that.
yep,
I didn't know.
we're seeing on the lending side. I meet with my lender weekly, and we review these kinds of things, and they are seeing deals come apart at the last minute when the final credit is pulled. So, yeah, you better be aware.
Is that because that's new? So like 60 days from now, those payments are gonna be on.
Exactly.
Because
So
they'll have-
some people are like not knowing that it's being deferred now or whatever, and
And-
so they don't realize they have to make the payment.
And they're
and it's
missing.
completely screwing them up
They're missing.
But I'm saying like, but then they're off of their credit report until like
until they do
the
it again.
beginning of
I
this
was like,
month probably. And now like moving forward, they're gonna see them.
Right,
Yeah,
and
because the
people are,
pre-approval lasts 9 days.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
and people are missing their payments.
Yeah.
So they didn't see, they haven't been paying it for years now. And they're in the mailbox, but they're not opening that piece of mail. And so it sits there, it's 30 days late. Well, if you needed that, then you could make the payment, didn't matter because now your credit's all messed
And
up.
there's no way to go back at it. We've tried everything for one of my clients and it gets away like a year or two to be able to.
To
buy
be
a
able
house.
to, right, exactly. So I would throw that in the mix on the buyer side, as well as asking questions of the buyer. Do we, as you said, go through all this? I mean, I'm asking them to do, I don't make the list. I tell them, get your people. I would say to you, hey, you should really talk with their lender about getting beyond pre-approval, get them pre-underwritten, which means everything that she just listed. Okay, and that credit report that includes their student loan. So
Of those last three wrap-up questions, which do you guys like the most? If you could go back to a difficult one or the mindset shift.
mindset.
Mindset shift. So,
Mind shift. So.
what's one mindset shift or habit agents need to adopt to thrive in the shifting market?
We talked about it the entire time. If you don't set expectations with your clients, you need to start doing it. And you need to start really understanding your market and your homes, your craft, like always do research. Like being here today, that's you working on your business. So always be doing that.
Well, I see this business as being always a little bit difficult. And I want to, my goal in the years that I've been doing this has been to reduce the ups and downs in my life around this business. I don't want to be on everybody else's roller coaster. We described all the roller coasters that we get on every single day with our clients, whether they're sellers or buyers. I want to get off of their roller coaster. And so my mantra has become leads, more leads. You know, get out ahead. The difficult things will always be there. You're always going to have these problems in your business. We call them problems. I just see them as challenges because they're not problems unless you don't have leads, unless you don't have business.
You're not able to fully think through big things that happen with your clients when you're money hungry because your mindset is
It's all
just
about
about money and you panic, so they panic. But if you always have a steady income flow, you're never going to panic because if something happens with that deal, whatever, obviously you don't want it to happen, but you're not in that panic mode. You're that like fight or flight mode.
And more importantly, for me, it allows me to create something else to think about rather than being only focused on the day-to-day of this particular situation. It allows me to focus on, it's our job. Our job is to yes, to negotiate deals and all this other stuff, but it's also to have a business. And the only way I have a business is if I'm forward focused and I'm working on the next piece, always working towards the next 30, 60, 90 days.
I think the one thing that made me more successful over the last year or two was taking a breath and not answering people right away. I've learned that time is the best negotiator. So if there's a difficult thing arising or a difficult text, I really I try to get back to people within an hour, but in that sense, I don't, because I want the emotions to go down a little bit. And I want to problem solve things behind the scenes so that I'm responding in a practical way.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice.
There's no reason to panic. You're always going to find a
Exactly.
solution.
Exactly. Yeah, I do the same thing. Take a breath. Don't
You
respond.
seem way more relaxed than I would ever be.
Texting,
I'm sure you
all this
you're
texting
always
that we get. Oh God, I got to respond to that. Well, it's a job to do that,
Yeah.
right? It's a job to keep yourself from doing stupid things, to keep yourself from being concerned about the paycheck. It's a job in my mind. That's my job, is to try to stay as even level-headed as possible.
It is your job.
Yeah.
You're the one that's not supposed to bring stress into the deal. You're supposed to take stress out. And
Exactly.
if you're being emotional in your deal or in any sense of your business, People breathe that very quickly.
Exactly, exactly. And then they will respond in kind, and that's the worst thing you can do.
And with us going into a shift, obviously there's gonna be a lot of people in our market center and things like that that are gonna go through the roller coaster where they're going down right now. And just know that it always goes back up if you stick with it. Don't give up.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna add a couple of other things, if it's okay.
definitely.
All right, so.
This is your world. Scott.
Price
We're just running
reductions. I pulled the numbers as best we could. May, June, and July. May, we had 740 price reductions. In June, we had 864, and in July, we had 960. That's a Cuyahoga County, pardon me, Cuyahoga County. That represents a 30% increase in price reductions. We know the days on market are going up. They've steadily been going up in the last 3 to 6 months. What does that tell us? I mean, as realtors, whether you're buyer or seller, what does that tell us?
It's hard, I mean, it tells me that what, the first thing Danielle said, that buyers are far more
Choosy?
Money conscious.
Yeah. about what they're gonna do, and they seem like they're more concerned about making a choice than they are about losing.
Yeah.
Right, so it's just a different,
Right,
you're
Mindset.
selling to a different person, right? That's-
exactly. And if your client, the seller, knows this, that will help them get them out of their mindset, which is, well, shouldn't I have, 20 offers, and shouldn't I be able to get this price? This is telling us these days on market and these price, this is telling us that we have a lot of overpriced listings because people like you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, were thinking they deserve this price, and the market said no. And this is the proof. So I see what I see is becoming a more balanced market. It's not yet it's not yet a buyer's market totally, but it's in pockets, it's still very much a seller's market. But overall, it's becoming more balanced. And that's a good thing for us. We're even though we don't like the interest rates, I feel like all of this is creating, it looks like instability in some ways, but in reality, it's creating a little bit more stability. So that's the message that I'm communicating, and being prepared for the market, whether it's as a buyer or a seller, is around these numbers. That will help them a lot.
My last note, I know I said my last note, my coach actually told me that within the last week, it's gone up to a 95% chance that we're gonna have 2 rate cuts this year, I believe. And so he basically told me, he's like, this is your time to thrive and really work and regenerate, because listings are gonna be so key in this upcoming market. Because if they start dropping even like a little bit, I mean, there's gonna be more buyers that come to the market. Your listings, or you're paying when you have listings, so you're always gonna, like, at least right now, and if we see that actually happen, like, you really should focus down on listings. This is my year that I've had more listings than buyers, and my life is a lot easier. To say the least. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions? We're gonna do questions, then we're gonna do ahas. So any questions about anything you've heard, or? No question?
Where's Jeremy when we
It's not, Jeremy's here for the sniper marks. All right, what's one aha? What's your biggest aha from today's session? What's something that jumped out at you?
Our expectations up front, it's huge.
Love that. Set expectations up front. Buyers or sellers, whatever it is. How about you, Douglas? Yes.
Scott's thought about mindset and just kind of like treating it different. Like at this point, like as a listing agent, like we're the ones who need to be starting to focus more on figuring out how to make deals happen and keep deals together. Whereas, beginning of this year, last year, as a listing agent, it was just kind of like, hey guys, like I've got the gun. If you guys don't want to do what you're supposed to do, then we're just gonna move on.
Yeah.
That's not really the way it is anymore. And I mean, making
Yeah.
sure sellers understand that too, because sellers, like, the reason it was so easy for so long on the listing side was because we were always giving news to sellers that was better than they ever thought. Because sellers are always like a year behind. And so now, for the first time, the year behind is hard for us instead of
Yeah.
easy for us.
Yeah.
So like explaining that to them, like you're not gonna be the one that gets to call the shots.
Yeah.
it's not the way that's gonna work anymore. I'm like, this is what I'm gonna do to make sure that we give you some insulation on that, right?
Yeah, or give you as many shots as I can
Yeah.
give you
Yeah,
in this market, right?
yeah, but like I just had one, same thing, it was like a little dump of a house in West Park that was like the cheapest house in the neighborhood, so of course, everybody wants to come and look at it, and everybody wants to write offers and stuff, but at the end of the day, like, the only thing that mattered was making sure that we actually did the deal that was going to close, because if we didn't, we probably would have come back on and sold for 10% less.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And
Yeah.
so it's like, yeah, we had all these offers, they're all the same, they're all a bunch of jokers that haven't even looked at the house or anything, like, really trying to identify, like, what do we have to do to win here? As
Where you
opposed to
really
just
have to
like, let's
back
take the highest one, if it doesn't work out, we go back out, and we'll have 15 more offers.
Yeah,
It just, it's not true.
No,
not the world
right,
anymore.
right.
Douglas, what were you gonna say?
Price.
Price.
Aha.
All right, we're after 11, so thank you guys again for being here. Greatly appreciate it.
We just got started, Doug.
12,
Didn't you-
12. It's after.
Wake up.
I was testing you, Douglas. You passed. You know what time it is. Yeah, it's 12:03. So let's give it up for Scott and Dan. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. So awesome. Thanks, guys.
I'm really hot.
Yeah, go for it.
I get temperature fluctuations in my body.
Comfortable.